Hey, everybody, you got Adam from Outlier, and you can see that I obviously have a special guest. I brought on my friend Munaf the Machine Manji from SGPN. He is one of my buddies. He is very brilliant when it comes to all sports. Munaf, thanks for coming by.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me. I know you've been trying to plan this for a while now, and finally made some time to get this done. But it should be a lot of fun, man. NFL season's winding down. Kind of get into that crunch time where it's like teams are battling for playoff position, and it's that exciting time before the playoffs. But hey, man, glad to be here with you.
Munaf's also in good spirits because his team, with the exception of last week, is doing. I think spirits are probably high for the Texans, like overall. Like as an Eagles fan, we're wavering, but
Yeah,
you guys might be starting Davis Mills this weekend. We'll get into it. But the thing that you do that is your super special sauce is you have really popularized the ref report, which I'm going to put up on screen for folks. In this episode of the Inside Show, we'll do some props, we'll do some things, but I want to show everybody about like elements you can use that factor into the game. So
yeah.
here we go. We got it. We got them up. And you like, so tell us a little bit about like how you kind of got into making ref reports, and then some things that you're seeing for week 15.
Yes, this is actually goes back to something I was tracking for a different sport actually. This was when we were I want to say this was when we were in the bubble for the NBA and we were
Oh
just
man.
kicking it and just talking in the previously when we had Slack for SGPN and we moved over to Discord, we were just talking about referees and if they have, tendencies for certain teams, whether it's, favorites, dogs, overs, unders, whatever the case might be. So I started digging a little more into it. Long story short, we talked about it for the NBA. I was like, well, I feel like the NFL would be a little bit more popular talking about NFL referees, right? Just because it's America's sport, everybody loves NFL. It's on, at least 3 times a week when it's Monday, Thursday, and obviously Sundays. And this week we get 4 days, so it's Saturday games starting off
I
now.
know.
But this was something I think I started like 3 years ago when I started with SGPN. It's accumulated data over the past 3 seasons, and I sent it to Sean and Ryan, and Sean was absolutely thrilled with it. He's like, "Yeah, we need to get this up on the website ASAP." So it kind of started from there, and it's kind of taken off from there a little bit. This season's it's been a little up and down, but I mentioned in the report, Adam, that you're not gonna have every single referee that's going to be trendy towards one side or another. There's only a couple, and then sometimes it changes every single season. So historically there are some that prefer road teams or home teams or the over under, but a lot of it changes from season to season. So that kind of that's where I tried to kind of accumulate that data and put it out for the people, and also put a disclaimer, Adam, lastly, that this shouldn't be your single tool
Yeah.
when you're handicapping games, right? It's just something that if you're on the edge about something, maybe it gives that tipping point to one side or another. So, that's where it kind
Yep.
of originated.
No, I think it's awesome. And like, given that a lot of times we give out like a trend and like some of the props that we'll have are like based on 5 out of the last 7 or things like that.
Yeah,
Look, if the referee report was the trend to always go off of, then the sport would be corrupt and you would
right.
basically know things. I think the only one you and I can probably I think that there might be a couple of different NBA refs that we might agree, yeah, this is more than a trend. This is kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Chris Paul playing in a game. But overall, I think it's great. Actually, I believe the ref who was for the Eagles last week had been 7-0 with them ATS, and obviously
Yeah.
that didn't work out.
Yeah.
But tell us a couple things that you've kind of seen for this week that have stood out, because I like what I love that you do is you kind of pick out the things that are on the extreme of the trend that are just worth noting that might support your initial cap.
Yeah. So let's start with Sean Smith there. He's been a referee that I've highlighted, I don't know, I want to say like 3-4 times at minimum before the NFL Week 15 article that I did. And he's been very trendy towards road teams this season, whether they're a favorite, whether they're an underdog. I know he's done, I believe, 2 games this season that have been overseas, whether it's Germany or London. So those aren't accounted for in the stats here. Obviously, we don't really determine. I mean, there is classified road teams and home teams when we're talking about across the pond, but at least on U.S. soil, road teams this season 6-3-1 against the spread. They're about 66.7%. And if they're an
Solid.
underdog, Yeah, and if they're an underdog in that role here, Adam, they're 4-1 against the spread for 80%. Again, it's a very small sample, but it's a hot trend this season. And he's assigned to officiate the Sunday night football game this week with the Ravens, as I think they're about 3.5 now against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if you like the Ravens this week, there's an extra tipping point for you with Sean Smith being the referee for that game.
Wow. Yep. I do like the Ravens this week. So this is good. First of all, what a name. Land Clark.
Yeah.
Give me something. Give me something on Land Clark.
Yeah, so Clark is another guy like Sean Smith that has been very trendy towards road teams as well. So this season, 8-3 are road teams overall. When Land Clark is the official, and road favorites are also 4-2 in that span. So again, it's a pretty decent, percentage when we talk about 72% against the spread, close to 73% for road teams in 11 games that he has officiated, and then road favorites 4-2 this season as well, like I mentioned. And he's going to be on the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers game. Not that you needed some ref help, quote unquote. I don't want to misspeak and get in trouble, but I mean they are down in Carolina to take on the Panthers. Who, again, we know the Panthers are just not having the greatest season thus far this season, and Atlanta's in the they're in the fight for the NFC South and maybe a playoff spot. So right now, the Falcons are a 3-point favorite in Carolina. So I did see that them being the road team, -3 in favor of the Falcons right now.
No, I like that anyway. And again, it's not as if you needed another reason, but I think that it kind of helps you when you say, "Oh, wait, why are the Falcons only 3-point faves?" I think it's good. I think it's really good in these matchups with some of these teams, which actually might be on the same level if things had worked out the right way. So I think it's
100%.
super useful. Cool. Well, dude, hold on. Let me move this so I can make sure that people can continue to see your face. All right, so let's start. I got two games I want to talk about with you, and I want to hear if you got a good prop angle for it, or a side. But your Houston Texans possibly starting Davis Mills, against Tennessee Titans. This is obviously a big game with what's going on in the AFC South, the most exciting division in football that everyone wanted relegated. It's doing it now. Tell me what are you seeing and what do you like for this game?
Yeah, so you mentioned Davis Mills may begin the start here for the Houston Texans, and I've been keeping track of if CJ Stroud will be starting. Obviously, he is in concussion protocol for the Texans, and he hasn't practiced on Wednesday or Thursday. It is Friday. Friday is pretty much the key indicator if a player is going to play or not. It's still early for the Texans for the practice reports to come out. So it seems like it will be Davis Mills. And also, we're dealing with injuries at the wide receiver position as well, right? Tank Dell has been gone for the season. He suffered a tibia injury. And then Nico Collins is also dealing with, I believe, a calf injury. So we're a little thin at that wide receiver position. And Adam, I will say this, that the Texans going into Tennessee tomorrow, and Derrick Henry has absolutely just owned this Texans team. If you just take a look at the numbers and what he's done on the ground against his Texans team in his career, I'll quickly rattle off the numbers here for you against this Texans team. So over the last 5 games, I'm gonna just read off what he's done on the ground. So 211 rushing yards, 212, 250, 219, and 126. I know the Texans defense has improved this season under D'Amico Ryans, but there's just something that Derrick Henry, likes against this Texans team or has a lot of success against. So if you want to take a look at Derrick Henry's rushing yards to go over, this might be another good ladder opportunity for you to do that. Let me see if there's a posted number I can find for Derrick
He does a
Henry.
lot better, 66.5. He does a lot better. I only know it because I like his under, but I like his touchdown. Like for the same reason that you had said, look, he has like 2 billion yards against them ever.
Yeah.
But the defenses, I think that Derrick Henry, he's also his splits at home are crazy. Like he does so much better at home. He averages like 76 yards at home. But then I looked at what the defenses were that he had done this to, and it's like the times where he has gone over the number, and I don't know if this helps when you decide to go to the window or not, but Baltimore, good deep rushing, like Cincinnati, bad rushing defense.
Yeah.
Baltimore, good rushing defense, so we'll give it to them. Atlanta, all right rushing defense, so we'll give it to them. But then we get Pittsburgh, which is actually a very overrated rushing defense. Just like they got shelled by like Arizona. They've been actually giving
Mhm.
up tons in the trenches.
Yeah.
Carolina, who we talked about before, and Indianapolis. So I was looking at his under, but like the Texans, because the Texans Houston defense has improved really much this year, and it's a different team. And also it's a little bit slim pickings if you want to try to find like a positive, like there's no props up really yet for Houston at the time of recording, because
Yeah.
I think it's because they just don't know. And also I have no idea who your wide receivers are, like you said.
Yeah.
But but for me, I was looking at that. But yeah, I mean, look, he eats them. It's either gonna be a massive game or it isn't. So to your latter point, might as well go to the moon.
Yeah, and that's my hesitation, right? Because this Texans team is now top 10 as far as opponent rushing yards allowed per game. That would be my hesitation. If you're able to find a maybe rush attempts to go over
Yeah, I love
for
that.
Derrick Henry, I don't hate that. Again, but we know he's going to be the workhorse for this team. Also, I'll throw this one more out there. DeAndre Hopkins, now obviously with the Titans, a former Texans player. You may want to stick it to them a little bit in this game. So if you want to take a look at D Hop to go over on his receiving yards for this game, I don't hate that. That number is currently sitting at 57.5. I think last week was the week where he had an absolute outstanding week for the Titans. What was that, against the Dolphins last week on the Monday
Yeah.
Night Football game?
Yeah, he
Seven.
leads NFL in deep catches too, 33, which is
Yeah.
I don't think anyone realizes.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you make there. So if you want to look at either his receptions to go over, if you want to go yardage to go over, or like Adam, like you mentioned, maybe longest reception to go over as well, I think this might just be another, D Hop week for him to kind of stick it to his former team.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. It's you and I kind of came to the same conclusions on this one. Like that's a prop that I love. I'm big on his over. It's actually funny, when I wrote up my notes for this, it was 56.5 yards, and now it's moved to 57. So after we're done this, I'm gonna bet it. But yeah, he's leading in that. It's 5 out of 7 he's gone over. Like Houston, while they're great in run defense, they've been not great at controlling yards after catch.
Yep.
I loved that one. And then with the limited amount of things I on Houston, I don't like taking non-plus money interception props, but I actually really like Will Levis to throw an interception.
Yeah.
You guys have 7 picks in your last 5 games. And since he's targeting Hopkins so much downfield, one of the other stats that I found was that Texans are also tied for second with the most deep ball interceptions, which is basically an interception on a ball that was thrown 20 or more yards. So they have 5 of them. So 115, it's 115 on both sides. So you're paying the same juice either way, but I like Levis interception, and I'm absolutely with you. I think Hopkins has a big game. I think like either way on the yard side.
Yeah, so right now, I know we talked about the wide receivers for the Texans. Noah Brown is also questionable, and Nico Collins questionable. We already know about Tank Dell. So I did see Dalton Schultz, a tight end. He was a full participant in practice. So if 2 of those guys, or one of those 2 guys of the wide receivers, can't go for this Texans defense, and you may want to look at the tight end Dalton Schultz to go over on his rushing yards. Also, our 3rd overall pick, Will Anderson Jr., he's dealing with a high ankle sprain, and he is still in a walking boot. So, which more than likely means he's very doubtful and doesn't play in this game against the Titans. So that's definitely a big hit to the defense of the Texans as well.
Yeah, it was hard for me to find. I was like, do I want Noah Brown? Well, he hasn't really been around. Do I want Robert Woods? Not really. Robert Woods led in route participation last week, and I was just like, I don't know if I want Robert Woods. It's hard. I don't even know who any of the other guys are. I mean, these are. I mean, is there any? When things come out, is there like a wide receiver? Let's say Noah Brown's ruled out. Let's say Dalton Schultz does play.
Mm-hmm.
Who is kind of that? Let's put your CJ Sullivan hat on. Like, who's that dude who's like wide receiver 3 or 4 that people could look at and maybe ladder, mess around, and try to find a good prop from? Is there a guy as a fan that you know?
It might just be John Mechie for the Texans, right? I mean, I know he was dealing with some medical stuff off the field, and thankfully he's been able to come back from it. I know he got a couple targets last week. So I think that if both guys aren't able to go, I would look at John Mechie. And again, that might be a player prop that the books may not drop till closer to game time. And probably don't know where to put his number at, just because he hasn't played a lot of snaps or had a lot of targets this season. But last week he did have 5 targets, only resulted in 1 catch and 6 yards. But again, this might be an opportunity, like we mentioned, because of all the injuries that they're dealing with, that it might just be his time to step up in this game.
Yeah, funny. When I was watching the game last week, that's the one part. Like I remember turning around and I was like doing a bunch of different things, but I turned around and John Mechie made that catch.
Yeah.
So no, I think that's a good look. Staying in Texas. Well, actually not staying in Texas because they're playing the Bills, but with team wise, Cowboys, Bills. Tell me what you're thinking about for this game. It's been line freeze on both sides of it the whole week, which you and I both kind of always see means something's up. Like they're not
Yeah.
moving it off 50.5. They haven't moved it off 2. What are you thinking for this game, which is not a Sunday night football game, by the way? Surprising, but
Yeah, I think I'm tired of watching the Dallas Cowboys on prime time. I think was that back-to-back primetime games? I know they had Thursday night
the Eagles
football.
are, I think, on their 3rd straight primetime game this week, and obviously I'm a fan, but it's like I kind of want to do something at 1:00 versus on the afternoon versus wait till
Yeah.
8. But yeah, it's fine.
I mean, you take a look at the Dallas Cowboys this season, who they've beaten, right? They split with the Eagles. All right, that typically happens when in division games, right? When you have two of the better teams facing each other, right? So each team won at home. But then you take a look at who they really beat, right? They beat Washington. All right, that's one of the worst defenses in the league. Carolina, we know, is not very good. They beat the Giants without Tommy DeVito. Maybe if Tommy DeVito was there, it might have been a different story. They beat the Rams, they beat the Chargers, they beat the Patriots, the Jets, and the Giants again. So I mean, Adam, it hasn't been overly impressive. And the argument going to be, all right, well, you play who's in front of you. Yeah, I get it. So now you have a very, very desperate Buffalo team that they're going to where it's going to be cold. I know that Dak Prescott, this was either last season or the season prior, that he had some type of plate or something that he was put into his throwing hand when he was dealing with that thumb injury. And from the things that I've read, that his hand in the cold, it's a little difficult for him to grip the football. So I think that's something that we may want to consider here. But I really do like the Bills in this spot. I know defensively they just have not been very good, but I think it spoke a little bit of volumes to me how they came out, went into Kansas City last week, got the victory there. I know there was some controversy at the end, but it was 100% the correct call. And if they win this game against Dallas, they can finish out this season undefeated because they go to LA next week, the Chargers. We know where the Chargers are after giving up 63 points to the Raiders on Thursday Night Football.
I thought that game was in Cancun. I couldn't tell the way that they were playing. You would have, just
it seemed like it, right? It seemed like they were throwing like a lot bigger ball around out there, the way that some of these guys were making catches and scoring touchdowns
maybe
yesterday.
they thought the Brazil game for next year. Maybe they thought it was this year and they're just getting ready for it.
And then they have Patriots at home. We know where the Patriots are right now. Then they go down to Miami. And, Miami may have the division clinched by then. Who knows? But I think that may turn into a meaningless game for the Dolphins. They not put, maybe not put two out there, maybe not put Tyreek Hill out there as well. So there's an opportunity that the Bills can win outright. I love the Bills in this spot. I like the 2 here. So I'm on the Bills here, minus the 2.
I also like the Bills here. I took them as well. I'm going to just share up on screen. Just one of the things I'd looked at. There's still one guy though on the Bills who kind of has been struggling a little bit lately that has oddly corresponded with the team doing better. And that's Stephon Diggs. I'm only specifically looking at his longest reception under because I'm going to give Dallas some credit on the defense side, especially if things happen the way that you've talked about, which is, Dak's not going to be able to do it. The defense has done really well. Like Dan Quinn should absolutely be a head coach again. Super Bowl losses and things aside, which I think you and I maybe we'll want to blame Shanahan for that or something. But I like his under for this. Obviously, like you can see, like, he hasn't hit in 4 straight, but Dallas is really, really good at controlling deep balls. They're 11th in ADOT, which I always like to tell people is my favorite nerd stat for average depth of target. They keep folks in front of them. And a lot of guys have stepped up and done really well on the Bills. That has kind of corresponded to Diggs still getting his catches, but not necessarily having these 150-yard kind of games. But I do like the Bills. This is one of the plays I do like on that side, this side. And then I'm going to be looking probably at some Dak interceptions and things. I did see Micah Hyde was ruled out, but I feel like he's been ruled out almost like half the games this
Yeah.
season, so I'm super concerned. But I'm with you. I'm definitely with you on the Bills for this one.
Yeah, I think that this might just be a. I mean, we talk about go back to Stephon Diggs. Obviously he's been a target machine all throughout his career, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I completely trust Josh Allen throw an accurate pass down the field to Stephon
11
Diggs.
targets the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, like he's getting fed. It's just a different game plan that they're doing.
Yeah, so I can definitely get behind that. I mean, if you want to take that Stephon Diggs receptions to go over, I think that might be worth a look. But other than that, I mean, it's what if something that's working for you where you need every single win right now for the Bills, you don't want to get away from that. And again, going up against the Dallas Cowboys team that really doesn't have a chance to. I mean, they technically mathematically have a chance to win the division, but your Eagles are pretty much in control of winning that division despite them splitting the games this season. So love the Bills here this week, -2. Didn't have any player props just yet for that game. But yeah, I love the Bills here with you.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, I mean, lots of stuff's gonna come up in the next couple of days. Munaf, appreciate you coming by, and I appreciate everybody like watching this supersized episode where we got a bunch of stuff. Can you tell folks where they can find you?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Adam, you can find me on the Sports Scaling Podcast Network, doing the NBA pod, NFL pod, Propcast. If you like player props, we have a special podcast just for talking about player props, whether it's NBA, whether it's NFL. We do that every single week. You can find me on social media as well on X at SportsNerd824. DMs are always open to chat about anything and everything. So yeah, just find me all over the place, I guess you can say.
Nice. Well, Munaf, thanks for coming by. Obviously, like I'm a fan of you and friends with everybody you work with, and it was great that you came by. So, folks who were just like, "Oh, I'm sped to the end of this episode," Munaf and I both agreed we like DeAndre Hopkins over. We're still figuring out some other props. We both like the Bills, but do some research, check it out. Good luck with your bets this week. Munaf, again, thanks for coming by.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.